I'm Jason Calvi in for Lauren Ashburn. We told you tonight about the anti-Catholic controversy centering around Pastor Robert Jeffress. We're now joined by Johnnie Moore, founder and CEO of the Kairos company, a PR firm that actually represents the pastor. He's also an evangelical advisor to President Trump. Do you feel there's a bias against Christians, against Catholics right now in our country?
Of course there is. I mean, absolutely there is. And I think this whole incident was an attempt to stoke that. You know, Pastor Jeffress was very clear right out of the gate, as he was the last time, you know, this as he calls it, fake news story went wild. You know, that he loves the Catholic Church, that millions and millions of Catholics will be in heaven like millions and millions of Baptists, that Catholics and evangelicals have worked together on the right to life and religious liberty for a long time. But you know, there are certain people in the press in particular. You know, the president makes a tweet because he liked Jeffress's book on heaven, and then all of a sudden they pounced on Jeffress, and this is what they found. But it doesn't.
They found an old quote, is what you're saying.
No, an old quote that he had clarified a long time ago, and you know, he doesn't believe what those news articles said, and he made that clear. And you know, I think it's sort of the end of it.
So it's a nothing burger. Move on.
Yeah. I mean, it's an attempt to divide. And I'm not interested in dividing Catholics and evangelicals. I think this is the time we've been most united, you know, around Christian persecution, religious liberty, the right to life. You know, and when the media attempts to divide us, you know, then we have the conversation like we are now. You know, we're together on a lot of things. We're together this week, you know, on the issue of persecuted Christians.
And that's one of the things that's happening right now. Tonight, Vice President Mike Pence, as he's done several times in office, he's going to be speaking to the In Defense of Christians Summit tonight. What themes do you hope he addresses tonight?
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, this is remarkable. One of the chief spokespersons for persecuted Christians in the world has become the Vice President of the United States of America. I mean, in a number of previous administrations, I mean, this was an off-limits topic, you know, Republican or Democrat, and he's going to do it again. And he's going to reflect the president's sentiment. I think he's going to say these Christians need to be protected. He's going to prioritize religious liberty. They're doing that, by the way. They're reducing the size of the State Department, but they're strengthening the size of the Religious Liberty Department, the State Department. Now, it's going to be a great speech, as it was last night. You know, we were at the Cathedral of St. Matthew and had an ecumenical prayer service, and the nuncio was there from, you know, the Holy Father and patriarchs of the various Eastern churches, and it was a sense of unity around this particular moment in history. We want to raise our voices and provide help to rebuild a church that didn't die. It survived. You know, and if the church can survive what it survived, imagine what it can become now with all of our help.
I mean, these are the heroes. There's a famous line about the early church martyrs that the blood of those martyrs is the seed of the church, and we're seeing that with what these Iraq Christians, they've been persecuted by ISIS. We see how that inspires our faith. You spoke at that prayer gathering last night. What was your message?
Well, you know, I said as evangelicals, we're not like the little brothers and little sisters. We're the infants, you know, in the equation. And you know, and I called for the evangelical community to raise their voices, you know, for the Catholic and Orthodox communities around the world. I said, you know, bridges have been built that bridge centuries of division and confusion. Now we're together, and it's our privilege. And we have to fight as hard now as we did when ISIS was at its height to rebuild these communities. Because again, you know, the church will not die. The church cannot die. You know, this is God's church, and it is alive and well in the Middle East. It's under great threat. And together we must come around it, and we must work as hard to rebuild it as we did to raise our voices for it. And I tell you, it was an amazing spirit of unity in that room.
Let's talk about Congress, congressional action here. That's the beat I cover on the Hill. I know Vice President Pence at the National Catholic Prayer Breakfast said he wanted to work with Congress to protect the persecuted Christians. What does the administration need to do next to help the persecuted Christians?
A couple things they need to do now. You know, they need to appoint an interagency coordinator to handle the rebuilding of Iraq and other considerations in the region. You know, they need to do a presidential directive that says that American aid ought to go help rebuild these communities, and that's lawful and legal, especially because of the unanimously passed genocide declarations. And, you know, the Senate needs to pass H.R. 390, which passed in the House unanimously. And for whatever reason, you know, I'm told it's because of one Democrat senator she doesn't sit on the committee that will have oversight over it, and so she potentially is blocking the entire bill. A bill passed unanimously unanimously in the House, and this bill allows us to prosecute ISIS. It allows us to prioritize aid. It's the right thing to do. That bill needs to get passed immediately. The White House wants that. Everybody wants that. Now the Senate needs to do it.
Maybe our viewers should also maybe make a phone call or two, you think?
It matters. It matters. And this bill is consequential, and it's incredibly bipartisan. In this divided time, it passed unanimously in the House.
And it
would pass in the Senate.
And it did pass unanimously in the committee.
In the Foreign
It just
Affairs
needs to come before the whole Senate.
Yeah,
So we'll see what happens.
and it needs to happen not a week from now or 2 weeks from now or 3 months from now. It needs to happen now.
Johnnie Moore, thank you. Evangelical advisor to President Trump. Great to talk with you. Thanks.
Good to be with you.
Appreciate it very much.